What is up, everyone? Thanks for joining us for episode 118 of the podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Kenny, and with me is Tess.
Hello, everybody.
And we are back for another awesome episode this week. Sorry, I had to start with a bit of a sigh because the first topic we were talking about has me in a bit of a crossroads with how I'm feeling as of late. And I think there's other people who feel the same way I feel, but they don't want to say it because of the attention they might get for saying how they really feel. But or I could be on an island by myself. I am totally fine with that. But at the same time, I know how the internet be interneting, and so I was just reluctant to speak on certain things. Before we get into that, I do want to make mention about some stuff that's been going down as of late. Been playing some video games. Been playing South of Midnight, which is pretty cool. Which actually kind of ties into what we're talking about. The first topic being the film Sinners, because it's a video game that's set in the South. It has a Black protagonist. There's a lot of like African American culture, folklore, like a whole bunch of cool stuff within this game that I think is really, really dope. It's actually scored really well too, across the board. And I've been playing it. I haven't had a chance to finish because life, but it's really, really dope. And considering Sinners is like blowing up right now, if you like that, I would recommend checking out South of Midnight. It's currently on Game Pass, and it's great. It's pretty solid. But of course, because I'm me and I can't just play one game, I'm juggling multiple games. I haven't watched The Last of Us Season 2 yet because I wanted to finish playing The Last of Us 2 first. I've had this game for years, and I have not played it. I got it around the pandemic time, and the stuff that I was hearing from my friends was like, it was like sad. Like it's a really dark, sad game. There's good stuff like, happy moments, but it's a sad game. And I was like, I don't know if I want to play that.
Yeah,
during the
especially
pandemic. Right. But the way the video game industry works, there's always something around the corner that's interesting or new or shiny that you want to get. And it just kept being replaced with something else. Like I would get another game and another game and another game. And I'm like, you know what? I probably should play this. It's still in the wrapper and I haven't done it. So I'm planning to play it and finish it soonish so I could actually watch The Last of Us 2 and talk about it, just like we did the first season or whatever. But that's been kind of my everything is playing video games, going to the movies, so I can have stuff to talk about, or just, living life anyways, but having things to talk about with you guys and whatnot. Oh, a shout out to our listeners, because a lot of you guys been hitting me up behind the scenes about certain topics you want us to talk about or enjoying certain topics, like was it Enjoy, what we covered a few weeks ago, and people liked it. I need you to comment though in the comments though. I need you to, if you could just write it there, that would be great. Just, type it up there. If you're listening on not Facebook, YouTube, if you're listening, elsewhere, obviously there's no comments, but if you're on YouTube, just there's a little space there for you. You just put it right there. But yeah, the first thing we wanted to talk about is Sinners and not the film itself. That's going to come later. It's going to come later. Right now, we just want to talk about the controversy because I think it's interesting because of how wild Twitter has become. This happens a lot, but usually, for the most part, I feel like we're on the same page when it happens. Usually, like when Jordan Peele drops something, if there is any discourse, it's usually, what does he mean by this? What did this scene mean, right? And or whether or not you liked it, because there are some, when he dropped Nope, there was some people who didn't like it, some people who did like it. I'm one of the people who liked it, and that's kind of it. Outside of it doing well and him winning awards and stuff like that, that's kind of where it kind of stops, I think. But with Sinners, there's so much between what Ryan Coogler really meant and anti-black this, and you can't be mixed this, and this person doesn't really love her family, and this person loves her family too much and made a terrible choice, and et cetera, and people are just fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. And so I tweeted my thoughts on the film, and then I kind of faded into the background. But what made me come back though was this controversy on a Variety, how they covered the film during the opening weekend, right? A lot of people had a lot of stuff to say about it, and I'm on the fence here, or in the middle, because of my work in this industry and my understanding of how things can be perceived when you don't do the things that we do. It's very easy to look at a headline and find all of the wrong whatever and be totally off base on what is actually being said. It's very easy to do. Very, very easy to do. Writing headlines is a skill, not one that I've mastered at all. So I'm not going to front like I have. And also, the headlines aren't always written by the person writing the article. I've had plenty of articles where I didn't come up with the headline. I've actually had one where, I'm not going to say the publication name, but I wrote an article, they put up a headline that I did not agree with. I contacted the editor, because it was like, if you ever write for like a really, really big place, like sometimes they'll have an editor who kind of works with you you pitch the story to them, they accept it, and they start like, the starting edits. And then you'll have another editor that comes in and finishes it and gets it ready to go out. The second editor was the one that changed the title or headline. And I felt the way because it didn't represent what I wrote in the article, and it put a negative slant on a certain company that I didn't intend. And so I was like, hey, you go ahead and, you know what I mean? You go ahead and fix that, because that's not my body at all.
Right.
And the editor that I had started working with, they understood, they went ahead and fixed it. But if you were online when that headline dropped and you saw it on Twitter, you might have felt the way about me, because no one, you don't know the inner workings of how this stuff works. So you might have felt the way about me and thinking that I wrote a certain way. And Twitter is Twitter. No one clicks on the freaking article to read them anymore. And so the headline is all you got. We saw this with my One Piece review. It blew up. People were lighting their pets on fire and throwing them at my house. Like, it was just bananas for no reason. And so I am very much on the side of like, hey, let's pump the brakes a little bit and let's read a little bit more. Let's see what's being said. And on the flip side, I'm Black. And I know that it should be happening. Right? I know that biases and things, and I will say unfair bias, because everyone has a bias, but like unfair biases and whatnot, and things that are said negatively about anything dealing with us. You can see that with reviews of films that are based on, like a Black-led cast or whatever the case may be, versus someone else or another group of people, and how that kind of translates, which is why a lot of times people are like, hey, there's someone who looks like me, did they write this review? That, I want to read their review as well. Not to say that no one else can review our stuff, but we just kind of want to see what we want, what we said as well. Like, how are we feeling out here in these streets? And so, yeah, I get it. I get it. I don't think this was one of those times though. But before I do that, I feel like I've been talking for a while. So Tess, I want to get your thoughts on, because I know you read the tweet and,
Yeah,
way.
I just read the tweets because I don't have time in my life for anything else but just reading. That's the tweet. Like, that's it. So, yeah, I read some tweets, and then I was like, actually, it was Ben Stiller's tweet. I think
Yes,
it was Ben
he
Stiller's
blew it up.
tweet. He
Yep.
did.
He blew it up. He took the grenade and was like, boom. Yes.
It was Tropic Thunder all over again.
Facts. Facts.
So I saw the tweet and I was like, what the hell? And and then I went to it and then I started reading, because I think like Not Captain America, like Chris Evans on Twitter, Not Captain America,
Right.
like had quoted it, and then I was like, wait, this is from Ben Stiller, and then I read it. So it's like 3 tweets in, right? And then and so I get to the story at Variety, and honestly, I don't remember reading past like the first paragraph, and I just stopped. Probably because not even because I was angry. I just had more important things to do.
Right, and that's a thing we're gonna talk about in a minute. Yeah,
Yeah,
keep going, keep
just
going.
more important things to do, and I was just like, w- I was like, because it said it made a certain amount of millions, and I was like, why is this bad? Are we comparing this movie to Avengers? Like, are we comparing this to a Marvel film? Because when when was this amount of money in opening week bad? When like it just felt like I hate coded headlines. I was just like, why didn't y'all just say, "Oh my god, this is amazing." Like I was just ugh, I just it just get left a nasty taste in my mouth and I was like, this is weird. And then all the tweets are popping up like blah 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 and then people are like, you could have said that better, Variety. And then another article comes where it has a better headline and they were like and then people were like, was it that hard to have just said this first versus that? And then was it this morning or last? I think it was yesterday. I can't remember. It doesn't matter because it's Twitter. Everything happens at the same time all at once.
Right.
And so the next thing that I read was it was like Sinners projected to have an even like better second weekend out or whatever, like projected to make this much. And so then this is someone's tweet. So then they were like, I know that Variety writer is getting fired because it's like all this heat is because somebody's headline was the X. And then Ben Stiller said, why did you do this?
Yeah, and like, so there's a bunch of stuff there. And again, this isn't necessarily this is more like trying to, I guess, educate or provide more information.
Right.
This is not to downplay anyone's thoughts. If you feel away about Variety, feel away. I'm not caping for them. I don't write for them or anything to that effect. But I do know that I think I know some things that maybe people are missing here. Probably Ben Stiller being one of them because of how a lot of this is written. So like I looked at some of the stuff. One of the big things was when they did the Once Upon a Time comparison. So Once Upon a Time was an independent thing, I want to say, or not independent, but like it was in similar conditions in terms of how much it made opening weekend and what was written. And it was like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a box office hit for Tarantino, and versus what they said for Sinners. Granted, it's not the snapshot. I couldn't find that headline anywhere or whatever versus what they were saying, Sinners box office success with an asterisk or whatever the case may be. And there's reasons for that. And I think that they're missing. One thing that I did like though was that I want to say the writers for the box office has been the same. And so we can kind of compare because when there's a website, you have two different people writing different things. A lot of times the website gets blamed for someone's opinion that isn't like, oh, you guys are two different. Again, going back to IGN, when I wrote that review, it's like,
Yeah.
you gave this movie a this, but you gave this. And I'm like, I didn't review that film. Like, I had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
I think that one sucks too. You know what I mean? But like, there were some discrepancies there with what was being shown and the timing of it all. But one thing I want to address outside of that though was the titles and why they change. Variety does this thing where during the box office weekend they'll have one title because it's the weekend is ongoing. So it's like Friday and they'll say they made this amount of money. Like I actually have it pulled up Once Upon a Time, how much it made that Thursday going into the Friday, Saturday, like that Thursday night opening. And so with Sinners, they did the same thing. There's like, it's making this amount and this is good. But the thing is, they also said the same thing for Once Upon a Time. And I think people are missing that. After the weekend closes, though, they change the headline and they update it. They put update on the article because now that the weekend is closed, we can see how much it actually made versus what it was projected and how it was going in the first few days, whatever the case may be. So I have both articles up, right? And again, the only thing that's updated is the final number. There's a part in here where it's like, basically they're talking about the film. It was opening week, and it had competition with Minecraft. And it says, and this is, by the way, it's Rebecca Rubin. This is her article. And it says, boosted by stellar reviews and Kugler and Jordan's popularity, Sinners collected 48 million from however many, I'm not going to say all the numbers, North American theaters, and outperforming Sunday's initial estimates of 45 million. Those ticket sales marked the biggest debut for an original film since Jordan Peele's Us, which opened at 71 million in 2019. But Warner Brothers spent a staggering 90 million to produce Sinners before factoring global marketing expenses, so profitability remains a question mark. This is a fact. And I think that they don't realize that most of the time when she's writing the box office numbers, it's just fact. There's not a lot of herself within it outside of a few. And I've actually pulled those up as well. If we look at the box office, the same similar article for Once Upon a Time with its 41 million, it talks about how it has, let me pull this up. Is one of the career best for the, and that's why there's a discrepancy. This is one of the careers best for Tarantino. This is not one of the careers best for Ryan Coogler. Ryan Coogler, Black Panther made a bananas amount of money opening week, so they're not going to write something like that. If you look at, they go further on to talk about how much it made, and then they say, that being said, basically this film, I'm trying to pull it up.
By the way, there's a hurricane happening. If you can hear the the thunder.
Oh, I can't.
Okay. If you can.
I can't. So if we shut down early, that's why. It says so similarly to Sinners, it says the movie has the benefit of positive reviews and the rare chance to see Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt share the big screen, but it will need to rely on word of mouth to continue drawing crowds throughout the popcorn season. Essentially, they go on to say that a lot of money was spent on the film, and roughly it's 90 million to produce, making it one of his most expensive films, and it's not there yet. It's not profitable. It's saying the same things, and unfortunately, because I guess the way that it's worded initially with the opening headline or whatever for Sinners, it's like it's looked at as a negative. It's not saying it's a negative, or at least I didn't see it as a negative. If we look at what's being said, it's doing extremely well for an independent film. It's the biggest since Jordan Peele's, apparently, and especially considering it's a horror film. And at the same time, just like this other film, it's saying that its profitability isn't, we don't know if it's going to be profitable because it has to make over that. It has to make more than 90 plus whatever it marketed and then some to actually be profitable. Now, on the flip side, we talk about where she actually puts in a personal response when she talks about the Snow White. This is the same year, the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs film. I know they're not both independent, but just hear me out. She talks about how much it made, 44 million within 51 markets, and it earned a certain amount in like United Kingdom, Mexico, whatever. But then she goes on to say the film bombed in China with an embarrassing 900,000. Like, she uses the word embarrassing.
Damn.
Like
that's not fact. That's opinion.
That's opinion. Like this is, and granted, it is embarrassing, but she's using these certain words. She also talks about why Robert De Niro's mob film Alto Nights was such a box office disaster. When she talks about it, she said the film opened up to 3.2 million at the domestic box office, one of the worst ever starts for a major studio release, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I get it. One is major, one isn't. One is a tent pole with an IP that people know, one isn't. However, we're stating what's happening in real time factually. At no point is, or at least I feel, and mind you, this is from someone who's done this before, at no point is she saying, don't go see Sinners. Sinners is a bad film. And I in terms of coded messaging, Sinners is going to fall flat. All she's saying is it's doing well, but it needs to make a certain amount. She even goes on to say it took The Crown for the weekend, despite going up against Minecraft. She there's positive stuff over and over and over throughout this article in terms of competing. Whereas Once Upon a Time competing with Lion King, it was more so Lion King being dominant over it. Like, if we go through the comparisons, it's not as bad as people think. And a lot of it stems from the headline. But even then, I don't think it's necessarily just the headline. I think it was Ben Stiller. I think
It
I
was.
think
It was.
because this is what happens, right? When someone on Twitter says something, unless it's something that's proven really quickly, like if you prove them wrong very quickly, then you can squash all that. But someone will say something wrong or say their opinion. I won't even say wrong, right? Because it's still his opinion. Say something, and give their opinion on something in an article, and then people will run with it. They'll run with it because so many, like, looking at the comments, so many people didn't look through anything or whatever and was just like, yep, they're crapping on Sinners, go see Sinners. And I'm like, wow, you didn't read. She's praising the film. Like, all throughout the article, she's praising the film. I've seen articles where they talk bad about a character or talk bad about a film that's like black led or whatever. They don't do that. They'll say like, yeah, it made this money, but they'll say such and such is controversial, such and such, had an ongoing feud with blah, blah. They'll bring up negative stuff that have nothing to do with the film. They'll linger on, blah, blah, blah. Actually, the one with Once Upon a Time, they talk about Harvey Weinstein and being like, the stuff that he did. Like, this is one of the films that was, I think Tarantino didn't work with him, the disgraced Harvey Weinstein or whatever. Like, if that's more inflammatory than what she's saying about Sinners. And so I'm just like, wow, like, people are really upset very, very quickly. And I get it. There's a trigger considering us being black and we're listening for certain things where, like, we want to keep it fair type stuff, but no one is actually, no one is really doing that. And I saw this in two more places, right? I actually took a screenshot because I didn't want to forget, and I want to read it to you verbatim, and I want to see how you feel about it. Because I was like, people cannot be mad at this. So discussing films on Twitter said, Sinners is tracking to earn around $35 million domestically this weekend. This is the second weekend, mind you. A 27% drop. This will be one of the lowest drops ever for a major movie in modern history. What do you think that means?
That means it sucks.
That the movie sucks, or that the...
I feel like they're like, yo, sorry. I don't know what that means. Are they saying lowest drop or like highest
Right.
drop?
See, and this is because people were upset, right? Discussing films is this is very positive. What happens is when a film drops that opening weekend, usually the second weekend there's a drop. Like, most of the people who wanted to see it saw it that first weekend.
Okay,
The
the house
second
is
weekend,
shaking.
oh yeah, I see you dodging stuff. The second weekend usually is less. The numbers are small unless it's like a big tentpole Marvel film. The numbers stay kind of high. But for the most part, there's a drop. Most of the people who wanted to see it saw it that weekend, and then the weekdays or whatever leading up to the second weekend. It only dropped 27%, which means new people are going, and people who already saw it are going again. What they're saying is that drop usually is bigger for other films. It's usually around 50%, 60% drop. You're not making 35 mil after making 40 mil. You're probably making 20 mil, especially if the movie's not good. You might make 5. They're saying that people are still going to the film. And instead of like looking, because they speak more about it, instead of looking at that and being like, what is it they're actually saying? I think because it's in movie lingo that people are missing it. Kind of like how you did, where you were like, oh, that sucks. I'm like, no, that's actually very positive. They're actually saying that this movie is so liked that its second weekend is doing better than majority of the films made, period.
I have an issue with a lot of the way that, because I see more of this is just a side note. I have my own issues with discussing film.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah, I have a lot of issues. Okay, let me just say it I have a lot of issues with discussing film. Sorry, guys, I do. Because half of the headlines are horrible. There's no way, if you know movie lingo better than I do. If journalists know this, then journalists also know that regular people don't understand this. And so it's not my job to decode somebody's headline. You know, it's not. I'm the regular person, and the regular people are going to be the ones who are going to mistake it. It is literally the publication's job to make sure that they're doing their best in being clear. And I understand that not everybody is going to grab clarity, but if the majority of people can't grasp it, then you're not doing your job right. And
I
my
have to push
issue
back a little bit on that though. I do
that's
have to push
fine.
back.
That's
I have to push
fine.
back. But no, continue,
But with
continue.
discussing film, they do it so much that it's not, I'm like, no, it's not my job. I'm not going to continue to decode your shit because I went in once because they were, when the Little Mermaid came out, and you know how much crap was going on with Little Mermaid. They kept posting the stills from Little Mermaid. They're like, these are the first look images. They weren't first look images. Those were not stills that Disney was putting out. Those were screen caps that somebody was grabbing.
Mm.
Those were not, and if they were being put out by Disney, then somebody was
It
just
would be
doing
terrible.
it. Would be terrible, and it's like somebody is doing this just to push online engagement, because we also understand that a lot of this online engagement it's part of marketing, because all media is good media, or whatever, all publicity is good publicity type thing, because as long as people are talking about it, then people are talking about it. That means more money will come in, blah blah blah. And I know that people use that. I mean, look, Donald Trump literally used that in 2016 as free marketing. Man didn't have to campaign. He got free airtime. So that's the
Right,
same
right.
thing that they're doing. They are literally using this thing. But that whole thing going on with Little Mermaid, it's like, you know how horrible Halle Bailey's being treated. You know how all of this dissent is going on with this movie just because the character is black. And then you release these horrible stills, these horrible screenshots saying these are the images from the film. And it's like, no, they're not. It was so bad to the point where people were like, that's flounder. And it was like, it was not flounder. It was a puffer fish. And everybody online was like, oh my God, I can't believe that's flounder. That's so
I
stop trying
remember
to be
that.
real.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, it was a
Yeah.
damn puffer fish that she touches in the under the sea. And I'm like, you guys are responsible for this. You are the journalists that are putting this out. You guys are the publication that is responsible for pushing this idea. You started it. You started the discussion on this
Right.
particular thing. And so the longer that you guys continue the conversation in this vein, the responsibility is yours. I'm just a contributor. And in that particular instance, I remember responding and being like, you guys, this is not cool. Why don't you use this image? Like images that I found just doing Google searches. I was like, why are you using the image where you can't see anything? Her face was covered and it was just so to go back to my whole point there, that is something that even the law uses, where how the law is in favor of the person who would less be able to understand. You know, a
Mm.
judge can sit there with two people and be like, even though corporations have more money and are more likely to win, you know, in fights against a smaller person, the judge, there is a law, there are laws that benefit the smaller person because the smaller person would not have access, would not have knowledge, XYZ. It goes there. I literally hate that I forgot the scene as I was a paralegal for freaking 6 years, but like you will have a person who the law will favor because they're like, this is a regular person and they would have no way of knowing XYZ. So you, the corporation, would be either responsible for educating that individual or you would know better. And since you knew better and you never ever made it obvious that you knew better and the person was operating under the understanding that no one knew better because clearly they didn't and nobody knows what they don't know.
Right.
And so I
And we saw
do.
this with phones recently where like now like in terms of like subscribing or unsubscribing and
Yeah.
the language that goes along with that, like how it has to
Yeah.
be a clear like I don't want this thing, let
Right.
me unsubscribe. Like they've done that. Yeah.
And so I'm sitting here like, obviously, if the headline is saying something, I'm like, I don't know what this is supposed to mean. I don't get it. I don't know what this is supposed to mean. And mind you, I'm like, is this bad? It sounds bad. Oh, guess what? It also sounds bad because the other thing that came out didn't sound great. And
Facts.
if you knew that, if you were
Yeah.
aware that the last thing that dropped wasn't great, it is your effing job as journalists, it is your effing job as media to be clear so that we don't continue down the negative road.
Now, one thing
Somebody has to say something.
well, so I have to add some pushback,
Yeah.
because which is great for me because we always agree. So I have to
Yeah.
like this is like a cool moment for
Yeah.
me. No, but like I agree with discussion
Mm-hmm.
films with when it comes to stuff like that, the Little Mermaid stuff, and I
Yeah.
also agree with social media is a different beast than
Yes.
the website. So I do understand that.
Yeah.
However, it's also an enthusiast thing
Mm-hmm.
where, for instance, normal people don't look at box office. They don't. Like it's a thing now because it's on Twitter. But normal people when they go look at films, they might go look at a review or they might have an interesting article about an actor. But most people, like I would say roughly 80% of all moviegoers do not look at box office. It's something that you hear later. Like, oh, this was a box office smash, or this was a bomb, like it bombed at at the theaters or whatever. No one really goes like, let me check the box office. Like I do that, but I write about films, so yeah. But most people don't do that, and so the people that they're writing for aren't normal people who won't understand the lingo. They're writing for people who are in this. Case in point, if someone is talking about the draft recently, Deion Sanders' son not getting drafted for like I think 3 rounds or whatever. They're all of the words and the stuff that they're using is lingo based on sports. So if you're not aware of, if you're just watching a sport, like you're a football fan, but you don't necessarily know how the draft works, you might not know what that means in relation to him, in relation to his father. And because it's only however many characters, they're only going to put the most pertinent information. Same thing if you're looking at a website who covers like stock and stuff like that. Whenever they post anything, it's going to say stocks, bonds, this, that, and the third. And if you're just a regular person who isn't into that, you're not going to know. So on one end, I do agree because it's like, okay, we're writing about this particular aspect and people might not understand what this means in layman's terms, but at the same time, we are catering to the movie people who know what this means, knowing that this is a opening weekend drops, box office, et cetera, international numbers versus national numbers. They're writing for that specific thing. Because if you look, if we go over to Variety and look at Centers, like all their articles, they have stuff for just like what did Michael B. Jordan say, or the review of the film, or blah blah blah. But then they have more, I guess, more detailed, in-depth number stuff where it's like, this is how much the film costs, this is how much the marketing costs, this is how much. And so because they're writing for that side of the fence or that group of people, those articles or headlines aren't gonna be easily read by people who aren't right. And so that's why I give the pushback, because while I agree it's your job to be able to get this stuff out so people know, at the same time, it's such a minute part of the conversation. You are really just targeting the people that know. Unfortunately, because it's Twitter, you just need one retweet. And this goes outside of your area and it goes to everybody. And now people are like, I don't understand. Even though tweets later, people are like, no, this is what this actually means. It's a good thing. Even there, it being a link to an article that says, oh, this is a good thing. None of that matters. It's just what's being said. But that's my point, though. My point is,
it wasn't meant for the larger audience.
It wasn't meant for the larger audience. The same thing with Variety and the box office numbers. That's not meant for the larger audience. So so Ben Stiller might not, and granted, he's a movie person in the sense that he makes films.
He makes films. He's a director, producer, actor.
Exactly. I think from him, it's not necessarily not understanding, but I think a more personal thing where anything that is perceived negative on something that I believe is great and done by people who work in my field, I feel a way about. You feel me? Which is why I think his opinion is valid for him. You know what I mean? It hits close to home. Excuse me. And so, but the people who aren't there, the people who aren't in film, the people who aren't have the knowledge that he has, yeah, I feel like you might be getting upset for something that isn't negative, just like the discussion films thing. It was positive. It was praising, like super, super praise for Sinners. That isn't necessarily a condemnation on anyone, though. That isn't me like looking down on anyone. More so that to say, maybe going forward, kind of put these things in the right context so you won't find yourself being upset about something you shouldn't be upset about, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah, it does.
You know what I mean? It's just like, we're kind of, we're getting really riled up. And in a sense, I'm cool with that because more people are going to the theater because of it. Like, word of mouth. I don't think Ryan is upset at all. Like, Ryan's like, please keep talking.
Like, he has a great contract, remember? He gets money off the top. That man is getting money off box office. He doesn't have to wait until Warner Brothers gets its money back.
Right. And the fact that he gets to own the movie 25 years later, being a great thing. Now, that part is what bothers me. And I don't think this is on Variety, but there was an article talking about how it wasn't the article itself. It was the people talking where they were like, his contract is, it's unheard of and people don't, it's going to ruin Hollywood and blah, blah, blah. And
that's so stupid.
Like, and Ryan spoke to this himself. He's like, this contract has happened before.
Yeah, it's not new.
It's not new. I think Quentin Tarantino had one. And I'm betting on myself. This was very important to me. And so I put it on the table and other people bid for it. And Warner Bros. Was like, we got you.
Yeah.
That's it. Like the idea that this is a big deal, that part and what was said. And there's a part in the article, I can't remember the article, unfortunately, but there's a part in the article where someone within the industry was like, he was like, I hate to say it, but when you have a film that's led by minorities and, women and blah, 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 you kind of get these like big moments and people want to just give them give them all whatever they ask for because they're going to draw in people. Essentially what he's saying is, reading between the lines, this is the whistle, people. This is the whistle part. He's saying like, if you have someone that is he called
Ryan a DEI.
Yes. Yeah. Like they're going to give you whatever you want because they know that you're going to cater to a certain market and we want that market. And so that's why we did it. That's what he's saying. This is the whistle part, people. This is the part where you can be upset about.
Exactly.
That I'm upset about. I felt the way. And I was like, you said that like for the public? Like,
yeah, for the public and with your chest.
You didn't try to hide it?
No.
Like, wow.
I like my racists where I can see them.
Wow. Okay. And so Ryan speaks to that. He was on a, I forget what interview he was doing, but he was talking about how
I saw it.
It wasn't a big deal. And it's a big deal for him, but it's not unheard of in Hollywood. It's been done multiple times. And
why shouldn't he get it?
Why shouldn't he? You know what I mean? He's helping. I want to say he helped produce, like his wife is a producer. Like there's so many things. There's so many nuanced things that aren't that big of a deal. That is like, when he was asked, like, why do you think this is happening? And he just kind of smiled and was like, I don't really want to say. And then the reporter was like, go ahead and say, you know, you want to say.
They're friends.
For real. Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
She was great. She was great, mind you. And the people who are upset at her don't understand why she's asking the question. She's not asking the question because she believes that foolishness. She's asking the question because she wants Ryan to say something. She's giving him the alley-oop. And he did it gracefully.
He did.
He did it extremely, extremely well. He said what he had to say, and it was great. They both were smiling at the end because they know what they just did.
Yeah.
Like, you feel me? That's really like, oh my God. Anyways. So yeah, I'm not going to even get into the black side of the debate, if you will. That's that. I feel like that should be done in-house. You know what I mean? Because we look really, not that any one group could make us look bad as a whole, but I just feel like we kind of get on these weird think pieces for Black people publicly in a way that isn't beneficial for anyone. So I'm going to leave that part over there. Maybe if I get, we get with someone or we have a special guest so we can kind of break it down here. But like, I don't want to do this argumentative stuff on Twitter. It's just not, I don't know. I don't got time for that.
It doesn't help anybody, really. It doesn't. Yeah. And you end up expending a lot of energy and then your thumbs hurt. Right. And like, who wants that? Like, you gotta.
Right. Like, no, we're not doing that.
If I'm not video gaming, my thumb shouldn't be hurting.
Facts. The next thing, speaking of video games,
Speaking of
solid
video
segue.
games.
We want to talk about Minecraft. I did go see that as well. I went with a friend, college friend, and we wanted to see it, one, because we thought it would be a silly, fun movie, and then also, I not all films, but I try to like pre-screen certain films for my
Yeah,
younger
for
kids,
kids.
and stuff like that. And so I'm like, okay, let's go ahead and take a look. And before I get into my thoughts, there's this weird thing where people feel like you can't be critical of family friendly films, or friends, or sorry, films designed for kids, right? And I think that's really weird.
Yeah.
Number one, because I think you should be critical of everything. Like, I think that's a healthy whatever. Not
Mm-hmm.
to say that you can't have fun, but just to be like, oh, this could have been better. This could
Yeah.
have been better, or different, or it meant something to me based on A, B, and C. Like, there's criticism isn't inherently negative. I like, people hear criticism and they think you're being critical of me and in a negative, bad
Right.
way, and that's not always the case, right?
That's not
But then
what's happening.
also, we've seen good family friendly films.
Yeah.
Like, does Spielberg not exist anymore? Like, what are we talking about? Like, we've seen, does Pixar not exist? Like, we've seen
Right.
award-winning, amazing films for children, for
Yeah.
families, etc. Like, I don't understand this notion that if I'm like Minecraft is bad, and it is, I'm sorry. If I say Minecraft is bad, it's like, oh, well, it's not meant for you. Okay, but it's meant for my kids.
Can I say
And
something?
yeah, go ahead.
I didn't know that Minecraft was a movie until earlier today when I had Googled Sinners, and
Wow.
it said that it was like it was talking about movies that were out this weekend,
Yeah.
and and Minecraft was there, and I was like, there's a Minecraft movie? I thought that was a game. There's a
Yeah.
Minecraft movie?
Yep, they made a movie of the game.
So what I'm trying to say here, and I think it's important that I say this, I am detached from the world and have been for the last 5 years. Okay.
Right.
I don't expect anybody to agree with anything that I say. I don't expect anybody to take what I say seriously because, in all honesty, I am brain damaged. And not everything that comes out of my mouth makes sense. And I'm not saying that I speak falsehoods because I don't, but what I am saying is
Right, right.
that as a brain damaged individual, my frame of reality is kind of like a Picasso,
It's in
and
parts.
it's in parts.
Right.
And I know that it's correct because I wouldn't just be out here saying things that weren't, but I don't necessarily think that everybody is going to put the pieces together in the way they're supposed to be. So, what I am saying is, I am detached from the world for very good reasons. I
Yeah.
don't always have access to a television, so I don't have a radio. I don't necessarily get a lot of information unless somebody gives it to me. And that's why I don't understand why some stuff just pops up on my timeline because I'm like, how is this even in the algorithm? What
Right.
is the algorithm? What is me? What is? But I don't always know about things, of course, until there's some sort of random discourse. And that is what brings me to the knowledge of Minecraft being a thing. However, what I am going to say is that if I don't know about it, which it's easy for me to not know about things. However, if I don't know about it, it's usually nothing.
What? Wait. How
No,
does that
because
work?
it works. You know why? Because even though I am setting this up for people to understand that I most likely don't know things because I kind of live under a rock because I'm detached, I am just detached enough to where information gets to me like the mycelium in the air of a
Mm,
jungle. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
right.
still going to get it. I am a connected tree. Don't know why, because I clearly am on an island, but maybe I am only on the island of my mind. I still get the appropriate information. I found out about Pope Francis 3 hours into I found out about Pope Francis earlier than a whole bunch of people did. Don't know how, but I did. I just knew. And I'm the one who apparently lives under the rock.
Right.
So, even though I'm making the statement that I probably shouldn't know about Minecraft and that my opinion saying that Minecraft is probably bad wouldn't be anything special, like I should be we're wrong because I don't know about it. What I am saying is I feel like if I don't know something, even though I live on an island, then it is bad. Because remember when we talked about Arcane a little while ago,
Yeah.
my biggest thing was that I had not heard anything about Arcane season 2. And I still live under the same rock that I lived under when season 1 came out. And when season 1 came out, no one was not talking about Arcane. Arcane was the subject on everybody's mouth for 2 years. Okay, it just never stopped.
Right.
Arcane season 2 comes out, which is everybody is so pressed on this, and then crickets. I knew season 2 was bad. Season 2 ends up being horrid. It's a disaster. It is a destruction of a masterpiece. And that is why I'm saying Minecraft is bad, because I didn't even know about it. And clearly my island is special.
Well, to be so you're right. Because on Twitter, yeah, it's not being talked about, and I think it made enough money. It made a lot of money, because majority of the people going to see it aren't on Twitter, right? Like the people who are bringing their kids to see it, and you know, in droves, because it was a lot of people. Outside of the tweeting where people were like screaming at certain moments or like having a good time and recording it to put it on Twitter. Outside of stuff like that, yeah, I didn't see a whole lot either. But I'm pretty sure because it kind of came and went, like it made a lot of money. It's going to be, is right now it's made the most money. It's the film that's made the most money to 2025. It's at the top, right? But a lot of that is because of the percentage of people who just would go see it because it's Minecraft.
It's
Like
Minecraft.
children, their family members and whatnot, right? And so, yeah, it's not good. And while I understand, that's what I was saying. Yeah, while I understand that it's for kids, right? But kids aren't going to go see this movie by themselves. Their parents are going to
their
take them.
parents have to go.
And so you would hope that you're somewhat entertained. Heck, Bluey is not for me either, and I super enjoy that. Like I super enjoy Bluey. So in your face, no, I'm just playing.
Right?
But no, like,
no.
but it's me right now. I'm not really judging. Like I know that there's a lot of stuff that's not done well with Minecraft. Jack Black is great as always, and there's some funny moments. No, there isn't. I'm sorry. There's no funny moments. I was thinking of one thing and I kind of smiled, but it wasn't really. Yeah. But it was colorful.
Okay.
So it would definitely like kids would appreciate that aspect. And if they're really big on Minecraft, they'll like the cameos and the, you know, seeing certain items and stuff like that. But it's not something that I'm pretty sure, unless they're diehard Minecraft fans, they're not going to care within a month. Like my son, since seeing Mario, however many years ago that was when it came out, is still talking about Mario.
Wow.
And I don't think Mario is a great film either, but I'm just saying he's still like, hey, can I watch Mario again? I don't even think they would watch Minecraft like that. And they like Minecraft, right?
Yeah.
All that to be said, that's not my beef. My issue is with people who are like, how dare you judge this film? And I'm like, what is that about? Like, why can't we talk about a film that is aimed at children as if there aren't inappropriate things in children's movies sometimes, or as if, you know, they're treating the children as if they're not wise enough or smart enough to understand what's going on, or, you know, it's paced horribly. It's too long or too short, or, you know, it's heck, and this is on a good film. I remember when The Incredibles 2 dropped and it had a lot of flashing sequences and they had to actually put notes, on like at theaters saying like, hey, if you suffer from epilepsy,
Yeah, epilepsy.
You might want to chill on watching this film. And it's like people didn't think about, I guess they didn't think about that when they were making it. I don't know. But there's a whole portion of that film where it's like flashing lights.
Yeah.
And so like being critical of that, like, hey, maybe you shouldn't have done that in that fashion. It's fair. You know what I mean? And so to be like, we can't talk about it and bring up any negative things is kind of weird for me. I think what people are trying to say is that it's okay to have fun with a dumb movie. And that's where I talk about like popcorn films, where we talk about, I think Speed Racer is a good film, but if
I
it's
love
not
Speed Racer.
considered, we talk about Speed Racer being great, but like, let's say you don't think Speed Racer is a good film, but you still like it because it's silly or whatever. I'm down with that. I like dinosaurs, so I will probably always go see a Jurassic Park, no matter how bad it is, because the last two were really bad. I don't know how you make dinosaurs boring. How I've watched Discovery, whatever. We're not talking about that. But like I've seen a lot of the Fast and Furious movies, which are dumb. Good time.
So dumb.
Eat popcorn, laugh at the silliness that's on the screen, and then we move on. I'm not saying you can't enjoy a bad movie. You can't enjoy a silly movie, a fun movie. It's not that serious. I get it. Blah, blah, blah. However, that doesn't save it. That does not save it from criticism.
Yeah.
When I tell you I almost fell asleep watching Minecraft, I don't go to sleep in theaters. That's not what I do.
Right.
I am a theater goer. I like going there. I like the environment outside of rude people. I like the smell of popcorn, the sticky floors even. It just reminds me of something that is theater. You know what I mean? Like it's like, oh, this is a cool thing being here outside of my house, whatever. So I don't go to sleep. I make sure I'm ready. Like I'm down to watch whatever. No. like me and my friend were almost not like falling asleep in there because it was boring. I'm not going to hold you. Like as colorful as it was really boring. It wasn't funny. There was nothing that there was story threads that didn't go anywhere. There was just, it's not that great. It's really not. And if you like it, cool. But I just think it's a weird thing for people to be like, you can't judge, movies for children or family friendly films or whatever the case may be. Yes, we can. And we should. Some things are just bad and it's okay. It's all right. It's cool.
Yeah.
It made their money. They're going to get a sequel.
That's what people felt about Polar Express, right? Like, I don't know because I didn't watch it.
I couldn't finish it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I mean, it made its money. It's going to get a sequel. So if you like it, cool. But outside of that, like people being like, you can't have fun at the theater. You can. I think it's also this weird thing, and this happened with the One Piece review, where they feel like if I say something negative, being, critical, that I'm telling someone not to go watch the film, or I'm trying to prevent someone from going, or I'm trying to hurt its sales somehow. And I want to tell you all that we do not have the power to do that.
Seriously.
The only way we can sway someone is if they're already on the fence. That's it. If you have made it up in your mind that you're going to go see the Fantastic Four on day one, no matter how many negative reviews it get, you're going to go watch it. That's what it is. And be honest, majority of the people who go to films don't read reviews. Like, I really wish you guys would know, like, if we were to factor in how many people actually go see these films, and like, I guarantee you 90% of them, the people who did read the reviews were probably reading to make sure that whatever was in the film was appropriate for their child when they took their 5-year-old. Outside of that, none of them read the reviews. They just went. That's what it is. Because most people don't read reviews. It's niche. Even though millions of people read them, it's niche. And so I don't have that power. I don't have the power to stop you from watching One Piece. I don't have the power to stop you from watching Minecraft. I don't. And I don't have the power to sway, you know what I mean? Like, we've seen so many films, because if that's the case, the inverse should be correct, right? We've seen so many films get like 100% Rotten Tomatoes. No one's at the theater. No one's there. We've seen films that have like a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Really low.
They're rotten.
And then everybody watches it.
Everybody watched it. And then we also have the whole like which I really hate, where people will be like, the time that critics were wrong, and then they'll show like the audience score and then the critic score. I'm like, the fact that there's two different scores tells you
There's a reason for this.
It does,
First
you know what
of
I'm
all.
saying? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, we could say however we're just giving you information. You do with it as you please. I wish
Yeah.
people would understand how reviews work. I'm giving you my opinion and I'm stating some information that could potentially educate you on some things. Like if I
Yeah.
say Minecraft was colorful, because I use the word colorful here,
Mm-hmm.
I said it was silly, jet black, before I said it was bad. If you like those three things, you might go, you know what? He said it was bad, bad, but I like those three things. I'm gonna go. I just
Mm-hmm.
gave you information that you might not have had if you know what I'm saying, because you haven't watched the film. I said Jack Black was awesome. He always is. In everything he
Yeah.
does, he's great.
Yeah.
Even if the movie's bad, right? So if you like him, that might be a reason to go. I said kids went to see it. It was appropriate for them. They might like it. You might want to still go.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
might wanna
saying?
go.
It's just
Yes.
the information that I'm giving you. It's not for you to go,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, he gave it a 5 out of 10 and my life is over. I can't go watch it now. Like, stop.
no, that's not how it works.
It's not. Because I promise you, I don't care. I, I promise you, I don't care. Like, we don't think about the box office. We don't think about how people feel about our review, like our opinions. Like even other critics, like I'll go read them to like kind of get it. Like, oh, I didn't even think of that angle. That's cool. Like I don't agree, but I think that's a cool angle you did there. You know what I mean? But like I don't really care what I'm being honest, right? So why would I care like whether you go see it or not? Even for films that I like,
Yeah.
I'm not sitting like I hope Sinners does great. I hope it gets all the money in the world.
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy it when it comes out, but I am not. If it doesn't, I'm like, oh, that sucks, and I'm gonna keep it moving. Like I'm not.
Keep it moving, yeah.
Ain't nobody care. Like, anyways. I just think it's a weird thing. The next thing we wanted to talk about was Max and how they're limiting password sharing, which has people in an uproar. You knew it was coming.
Are people poor? Are companies poor?
No, what they saw was well, streaming services have been losing money forever, so that's a thing. And they saw how well Netflix has like gone up since they stopped password sharing. Like once Netflix did it and they saw like a boost in revenue or like profits or whatever, they were like, we're gonna do it. They was like, that's it. It's we're already lagging behind. We might as well do it. And the fact that they also have the triple, the bundle, Max, Hulu, Disney, they're doing limited, on the other end, it's like it just makes sense. Like, yeah, I'm just not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. You know what I mean? And it's going to work because there's things on Max that people want to see.
Yeah, like John Oliver.
Yeah.
He can always have my money. And I don't have any money. I don't even pay. I password share Max.
Yeah. So what they're doing is they're saying they're forcing you to what they're allowing you. So I think Netflix. Actually, no, I think Netflix was similar, but Max is saying that you have to pay like what $7.99 for people who aren't living in your home. So if they're not living in your home, they pay $7.99 and they can watch. Honestly, with how much it costs and them like group pay or whatever, that's not too bad. I understand though why people password share. It's a lot. With so many different streamed services, and like I don't want to subscribe to every single one. So look, you subscribe to that one, I subscribe to this one. We swap passwords. I get it, and I'm not mad at that at all. But this was bound to happen. It was bound to happen.
Also, like, I guess my other comment on this, because I don't necessarily understand things. I live on an island by myself, and and it's a private island, and it doesn't have like real plumbing. I'm poor. And I don't necessarily understand. I think like streaming, we've had discussions, we've had intelligent discussions before. Honestly, I was probably just pretending to be intelligent. I'm good at that sometimes.
Boo.
I'm good. I can make myself seem educated on a topic. What did they say in that movie? They use white speak.
Yes.
Oh God, that was such a good movie. So I don't necessarily understand a lot about when it comes to streaming and all that kind of stuff, but I do understand paying for cable, right? People pay Xfinity and they pay Verizon, and then you get all these channels and stuff comes on television and blah 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 blah, and then it's like if you subscribe to the premium channels, because you're supposed to pay more money for premium channels, right?
Right.
So you get HBO and Cinema. Does Cinemax still exist? I don't know, because I'm confused because HBO is now Max. So I don't know. Is Cinemax a thing?
Well, yeah. HBO was owned by Cinemax, or sorry, the other way around. HBO owned
HBO,
Cinemax.
they own Cinemax, so
Yeah.
they decided to just call everything. You know what? I just told you I didn't understand anything, so we're
Right.
gonna keep it. We're gonna keep it there, because trying to understand stuff still makes my brain hurt. I still get a pain like right here when I try to learn new things. So, you pay for premium channels on your cable, right? And then so you
Yeah.
get HBO, and then because you paid for HBO, you also get access to the streaming, right?
In certain plans, I believe so. Yeah.
In certain plans. So if I'm
Yeah.
paying Xfinity or Cox Internet or Verizon Internet, and I pay for premium channels, because I'm running cable at my
Hmm.
house, and I pay for my HBO, and I pay for Stars, and I pay for, other stuff that comes, FX, all those things, like, right? Then I should get access to, because I remember when HBO Go was a thing, so if you subscribe to
Right. Right.
HBO,
Yep.
it
Yep.
was like, oh, by the way, if you want to watch HBO shows while you're on the go, download it to your phone, and you just use your same user, password and stuff that you use when it's the same stuff or whatever.
Right.
And so I'm assuming that if you have cable, you're not paying extra, but I know some people like myself don't have cable, and so if you wanted to get a streamer, you would pay them directly.
Right.
And I mean, we password share because we're poor.
Facts.
I'm
Yeah.
just gonna go right back to that. I am poor, and I share with my other poor best friend, Peacock, because that's the only thing that we have.
Yeah.
That's the only thing she's ever asked from me. So we share that because it's just the two of us. And my family, we have all these sort of services, I guess, and we share it because we're poor. I used to have my own Hulu because I just didn't like having commercials. That was years ago. And then I became poor because I lost one of my jobs, and I was like, well, I can't afford this anymore, so I stopped. And then luckily, like, one of my siblings was like, well, I have Hulu, so we can share because you're poor. And I get it. I'm
Right.
not saying that these companies that provide these services don't deserve to get paid. We share the passwords because we're poor, though. That's why we do it. Now, if they say we can't share passwords, we've had this discussion before, then I just won't watch your shit.
Right. And I think they've come to terms with that.
That's
That Tess
fine.
will not be watching, and
And it means nothing to them, and it means nothing to me. I will not have FOMO. I will not ever
well, what's
have.
cool about Max though, comparatively to Netflix, right, is that Max releases a lot of their stuff physically, and
Yeah.
so there's ways of getting not getting around as if you're doing something illegal, but there's ways of seeing, like, The Penguin, for instance. That show is getting its own DVD box set, whatever,
Yeah.
and that's really dope, especially if you like it, you just want to own it. Whereas Netflix, and I've said this before, they have released stuff on DVD, but it's only stuff that's not, they don't own
That's
100%.
not theirs. Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
like, they produce the Netflix like Marvel shows like Daredevil and everything, but it was produced or like paid for by, or at least licensed by Marvel and
Right.
Disney.
Right.
And so Marvel's like, hey, we want to release DVDs, we're allowed to. Same thing with Orange is the New Black, and a couple I can't remember the other shows, but like, it's not entirely, even though it's a Netflix original, it's not entirely owned by Netflix, and so you get stuff. But like, a lot of Netflix's like own in-house, like, we did this type stuff, they don't
Yeah.
release it, and I
And then
think
it
it's
leaves the streamer and you never see it again.
right. It's terrible because while I understand wanting to keep people on the streamer, and a lot of people are moving away from physical media, it gives you an avenue to sell things that, for the people who aren't no longer subscribing. And It doesn't have to be forever. It could be limited. It could be limited.
Yeah, it could be limited time, special
You know,
release.
like special,
Go,
like Disney does it all the time. They
yeah, go
vault
into the
stuff all the
vault.
freaking time. But they will release it. Disney does it too, where they will actually release some of the stuff that's on the streamer. I think WandaVision is got DVD treatment and a few others, and it's like, oh, this is more revenue that you could have outside of streaming. So at the very least, Max does that. But yeah, it's one of those things where you can understand every reason why Max is doing what it's doing, and at the same time be like, I can't afford it. You know what I mean? Like I just can't, because the pricing keeps going up. They're limiting things. They're taking shows off. So like there's this battle with consumers. You're not getting everything that you want, and the value of your dollar isn't the exact same. And then there's the price of everything else going up. Food and all the other stuff. And so it's like, oh, just like how I haven't had cable in years. So the fact that I've gotten used to living without it because we couldn't afford it right out of college. So that's what's going to happen. However, typically what I do is I will sub for a month, watch whatever I want to watch, and unsubscribe and keep moving. That way I don't have to continue, continue playing. I think that's probably the best aspect, because I think 1 month isn't too bad. Even without commercials, it's not too bad. And then you just, it's not going to take you that long to binge a show and keep it moving. You know what I mean? So, but it was coming. Like the people who are surprised about it, I'm like, I don't know why you're surprised. Everyone's going to do this. Like, it just makes sense. They're all going to do it.
And I have FOMO. I didn't watch Hulu for like a whole year.
Yeah.
Anything that was on Hulu, people are like, oh, do you watch it? No.
Right.
No.
Nope.
I saw all of the necessary seasons of Handmaid's Tale, and
not the necessary seasons.
I'm sorry, that is a whole nother conversation, because
necessary seasons is wild.
The necessary seasons. But my point in saying any of this is that poor people got to do what you got to do. And if you can't afford something, then please don't. Like,
yes,
don't go broke because you want to watch a show that badly. Like, just don't do it. And at the same time, I'm sorry, they get mad over password sharing. I'm like, but you don't have any other options. It's not like if people actually subscribe to cable, if they paid cable, it's not like there's a Netflix channel, where there's there's not an Apple TV channel and Severance only comes on there. So, people are subscribing to these streamers for the specific content that those providers provide. They are. And, then only the people who can afford it will watch it.
Yeah, people who make it, who deem it necessary, because you are competing with other streamers. You're competing with everything, with your money, really, your time, and so it's really, we'll see how it shakes. If it works out like it did for Netflix, who knows? But I think we're gonna see pretty soon. I think I could be wrong, but we're gonna see pretty soon how this works out for all the streamers. I think what's going to happen is they're going to start being bundled with other stuff, because I think the numbers are showing that people aren't subscribing to everything. They're only subscribing for a limited time. The ones that are sticking mostly is the Disney, Hulu, Max bundle, Netflix, and maybe Apple sometimes.
I mean, I know some people, one of my friends who's an Apple person for life is like, oh, it just comes with your, if you have iTunes, so you pay for iCloud, then you get Apple TV. It just comes with your thing. So the only people who pay are the people outside of it or whatever. And I'm like, oh, and then people can correct me on this, put in the comments. I wouldn't know. I'm not an Apple user. I used Apple for a very short 18-month stint at a job that I don't have anymore.
So you're like, I'm good. I'm back to that Android life. I'm not mad at it. I'm not an Apple person, although I do like some of their products. I'm not an Apple person at all, so I totally get that.
I think I like the computer.
See,
but I don't know.
That's another discussion. That's another discussion. Last thing we want to talk about
Mhm.
real quick is Ziff Davis suing OpenAI. I just want to mention this. I'm looking at The Verge right now. Shout out to Emma Roth. She writes about how Ziff Davis, the owner of multiple outlets, PC Mag, IGN, CNET, Everyday Health, is suing OpenAI over claims of copyright infringement, as first reported by the New York Times. I probably should have went there, but sometimes you have to subscribe. In the lawsuit, the digital media companies accuses OpenAI of intentionally and relentlessly creating exact copies of its outlet's works without permission. The company also alleges that OpenAI trained its AI models on its work despite Ziff Davis instructing web crawlers not to scrape its data using a robot's text file, adding that OpenAI allegedly removed copyright information from the content it sucks up. And so, with all Ziff Davis's brands, you can imagine why OpenAI would want to kind of, use it for training its AI and all that good stuff. Ziff Davis goes on to allege that the OpenAI has copied, reproduced, stored its outlet's work, which it uses to create responses in ChatGPT. Yeah, that's a whole thing. Ziff Davis has identified hundreds of full copies of bodies of text of Ziff Davis works in merely the small sample of OpenAI's web text dataset that it made publicly available. Ziff Davis is asking the court to stop OpenAI from exploiting its work, as well as to destroy any dataset or models containing its content. OpenAI spokesperson Jason, I can't pronounce his last name, so I'm not going to do that. He said in a statement to Verge, ChatGPT helps enhancing human creativity, advanced scientific discovery, and medical research, enabling hundreds of millions of people to improve their daily lives. Our models empower innovation and are trained on publicly available data grounded in fair use. So, yes and no. And this is something that's interesting because it talks about AI being trained. We've talked about AI in different aspects when it comes to images, art, but this is on the another side when it comes to articles and whatnot. And essentially, it's taking some people's stuff and using it as its own. That's basically what it's doing. Whether it's training responses or training how something should be approached or whatever the case may be. This is not in-house written stuff where it can train on. It's other people's stuff, right? And some websites have actually partnered with OpenAI. They've licensed their content to allow them to kind of train on it. So there's an exchange of money. But Ziff Davis is one of the companies that said, no, we ain't doing this. And they decided to sue. And I'm not mad at them. I think it's going to take a large company to actually go after the AI companies to get them to chill on the stuff that they're doing. When we talked to his name just fell out of my head. Wow.
Hey, you're having a Theresa moment.
I am. We talked to Jorge. Gosh, there we go. Jorge Gutierrez about AI, because he's an animator, director, and whatnot. And he was saying like it's not big a deal in the sense of like people are still going to be able to find work because AI is terrible at the moment. And what's going to eventually happen, he was saying, was that a big company, it's not going to be the opposite. A big company is going to be able to use AI and get away with it because they're big. And the smaller people aren't going to be able to sue them. But when it goes the opposite direction, those big companies are not going to like that. And they're going to go and sue. And then that's going to set a precedent for this whole thing because it's new, right? And so what's happening is if Ziff Davis wins, which I hope they do, that will change how OpenAI works. That will potentially put laws into place that will curb some of this. Because at the end of the day, as much as we like to talk about AI being, or not me, but people like to say how good AI can be, right? I think there is some merit in that, but it's not in creative works. I think AI is good for maybe assisting with someone who has a disability, or assisting in just things like that. Versus like I want to make a Picasso. I'm reviewing a film and I want this chat GPT to tell me how good this film is. And so what it does is it just copies stuff from IGN. Like, no, that's not cool. That's other people's stuff. And so, yeah, I'm down with Ziff Davis suing. I think it's great. And I'm not one to cape for Ziff Davis, regardless of how many articles I've written for IGN. I'm not one to cape for them, but I'm just saying it's not so much caping for a large company. It's more so like this doesn't help. I mean, we talked about how a lot of people have been laid off in this field, and revenue and how that's been shaken after the pandemic and whatnot, with ad revenue and whatnot. And so having your work taken and then regurgitated so people don't actually have to click on your site to see it, yeah, that's going to hurt profits, which affects the people who write there, which would then affect the people who freelance there, me. So yes, I would feel a way about it. Outside of like moral and logical examples I could give, it's just not a cool thing to do, right? No. If you want to do that, get a license. If you can't get a license from them, then don't use their stuff. Period.
Yeah, agreed.
You know what I mean? So I just wanted to throw that out there, some extra little whatever for you guys to talk about. But that has been our show. Thank you for hanging out with us.
Yes.
If you're watching on YouTube, feel free to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're up on all the new content that's coming out from us. If you're listening on iTunes or Spotify or any of those other places, then definitely as RSS feed, subscribe, all that good stuff. Because we want you to listen, because we have cool stuff to say. Yeah. And so you should listen. Also, shout out to you guys for, liking the show and asking about things and commenting and whatnot. I just need you to do it in the comment section so other people can, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I dig the text though. I dig the text in the Discord, but in the comments would be dope.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have some cool stuff planned, and I do plan on talking about Sinners more in terms of a review or just like spoiler-esque or whatever. I'm not sure when, but that's something I want to do in the near future. I want more people to see it. You know what I mean? I want more people to see it before I kind of give my thoughts on it. But yeah, that is it for me.
Yeah. Honestly, that's it for me too. As you can see, I'm kind of like sinking. I didn't notice this was happening, but I've noticed that I've gotten like shorter, and that's what happens when you don't have a desk. So until that happens, one day, when one fine day when I have risen from the ashes. Okay, well that was Hermione telling me that she just anyway. Yeah, it's time to go. So remember, wash your hands, wash your faces, wash your butts. Be kind. And if you have an animal, kiss them, love them, and give them all the hugs and pets they deserve, because they're not here forever.
Yes.
But that's pretty much it. For us, you guys have a wonderful time. Here is the baby. I know you guys like to get a little hi, hun. Hi. Anyway, okay, you can get out of frame now. She's just asking for all of my attention, but I guess she knows that it's like quitting time. She's like, you've been at this for an hour and now I need attention because I'm awake.
Yes.
So yeah, that's it for me. Talk to you guys soon. Toodles. Bye-bye.